This evening's conversation is going to take a little twist because of something that transpired just some few minutes or so before I got to the stage. And so this is how it's going to be. What we're going to do is that we are going to have a pre-intro to the topic that we are going to discuss. And then right after the pre, we'll go into a break. And after the break, when we come back, we are going to have, I'm going to introduce to you our two guests, different from the original guests that we're going to have. They will also help us to appreciate and understand the topic a bit. And then the phone will be open or activated for you, the viewer, to also give your take on it. So it's going to be very interactive this evening. Whilst we do that and we prepare for that, you can still be sending in your messages and your comments and your topics. I mean, your words and anything that you intend discussing with us. And we are going to read them and we are going to share thoughts with you. Our WhatsApp line is 050-888-1800. And so as I indicated, we are looking at the fallout from the Ejisobai elections. And the question we are asking ourselves is whether or not we are safe as far as the general elections is concerned. Remember, over the past period, we've witnessed so many civil wars around us. And most of these wars took place as a result of elections. And that's why it's important we look at our elections very well. Research that has come over the past period tells us that which triggered this violence in some of the countries around us included, though not limited, to high rate of unemployment, to unequal development, to discrimination, marginalization, and issues bordering on chieftaincy. Research also tells us that most, if not all, most of these triggers seems to be having a strong presence in this country. And so what it tells us is that if we are not able to look at things carefully, the triggers that are so close to us, if it could go beyond control in some jurisdiction, there is a possibility that it can also happen here if we do not take certain measures. And that is why it is important for us to analyze and assess what happened at Ejiso, to ask ourselves whether or not we are safe for the general elections. Three key things took place at the Ejisobai elections. And I'm sure, aside the three, you also observe some that you may want to talk about. But you see, the first thing that took place had to do with how we undermined the electoral process through vote buying. I have said continuously that vote buying is not just or only a corrupt act, but it is also a criminal act. It's a criminal act because it finds its space in the provisions that we have in our act, the Criminal Code of 1960. If you make reference to Section 240, it refers to certain acts as corruption, and those acts include vote buying as corruption. When you look at 241, it also goes further to say that the vote buying, which has been described as corruption, is also an act of criminality. And that is why it baffles me that if this has been defined as an act of criminality over the past period, it looks like that which is a criminal offense, we are speedily accepting it to be the norm. We had the Kumeu by-elections, we had the Asin North by-elections, and all these by-elections, we had evidence of corruption, of criminality taking place in the form of vote buying and even vote selling. These things took place in the presence of the law enforcers. And when I talk of the law enforcers, particularly I'm making reference to the police service. The police service, in their presence, people were committing criminal offense. Talking of vote buying and vote selling. And over the past period, we've not been able to prosecute successfully even a single person to serve as a deterrent so that it will not reoccur. That is one key thing that took place, to the extent that we even saw on camera a whole member of parliament in the name of Kingsley Nyako, Dr. Kingsley Nyako, giving money. And when he was interrogated, the only excuse he could give was that it was meant for lunch. Such a laughable excuse anyone can give. Interestingly, it had to take the course of so many of us before we got the information that he has been invited for investigation. We are hoping that not only him, but the others that were also caught on tape, they will all be invited for interrogation and investigation to take place, because it is a criminal offense. The second thing that took place over there had to do with minors voting. And when I make reference to minor, when you look at our electoral laws, it tells us that you must be of age 18 and above to qualify to be called a voter. Unfortunately, at a Jesubai election, information that we gathered suggested that there were individuals who were minors and they were all transported to go and vote. Again, it offends the electoral laws, and we're expecting that we will have the law enforcers taking an action. Unfortunately, we've not seen or we've not recorded anything of that sort. The third one, which is very key to me, has to do with the police presence. And we had instances where some of the electorates were even complaining that the number of police presence were intimidating to some of them. And I believe that some individuals decided not to even go and vote because they felt the environment was intimidating for them. And so these are the three things that I saw happening there. And I believe strongly that if these things continue, which we have allowed over the past years, if it continues and it finds strong foot in the general elections, there is a possibility that the outcome will be compromised. And that is something we must all speak against. The worrying part of this all is the fact that we are now shifting speedily from meritocracy to moneycracy. And so it is now the highest bidder who wins elections in this country. And that, I don't think, augurs well for our electoral processes. That is not the best thing for us to do. And that is why this evening it is important for us to have, an honest, unbiased conversation for the sake of protecting the general election that is about to take place in December, some months from now. What we are going to do, as I indicated earlier, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we are going to dive into this conversation. We're going to ask ourselves how safe, looking at the fallout that came from the Ejiso by-elections, how safe is our general elections? I will introduce to you when I come back our guests that we are going to have. And after the guests have had their bite and take on it, the phone lines will be open and you will also give us your take on this topic. Stay tuned.
If I cry na menye sika, edia ye mefui.
Hifa pa na menya bosia edia tre medjuma yimu.
Ka you cry mabre. Me busia ato taxi fufu. Suhum Rural Bank.
Suhum Rural Bank.
Yamamu akwa baba Suhum Rural Bank. Ye won hyehyɛ ahodoɔ bi te sɛ dwadifo abosia, ekuokuro bosia, susu account, ɛne da so wɔ hɔ savings account, me bada chain savings account, ɛne de akeka ho. Frɛ Suhum Rural Bank was 03422919896. Na wɔn nso wetumi aka sɛ
Suhum Rural Bank. Ama ene mayeka owner.
Suhum Rural Bank enti me pa minie.
Me damwase.
Suhum Rural Bank, growing our heritage.
Welcome back. As I indicated, we are going to have a very interactive conversation or episode this evening. And at the right time, very soon though, I'm going to mention to you the call-in lines that you can use to also share your views and give us your comments on the topic that we are discussing. Whilst we wait for that, you can be sending in your messages through our WhatsApp line as we have on the screen. This evening, one of our guests that we're going to have a conversation with, fortunately, we have him online. He's joining us via Zoom, and his name is Professor Johan Dissau Atta. He's a dean at Akenton Apiaminka University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurship Development in Kumasi. Prof, are you online? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Welcome to Politics and Beyond, Prof. And it's a privilege to have you.
Thank you very much, my brother. And let me take this opportunity to say good evening to all our viewers all over the world. And thank you for the opportunity to join you this evening.
Prof, it's just going to be a very quick and an interesting conversation. Very practical, though. I'm sure you followed a bit what transpired at the Ejiso by-election somewhere last week. And we've seen the fallout and all that happened. What is your initial take on it?
My brother, I can say that Ejiso by-election was an interesting one. In fact, it was a very good fight. And I can say that the elephant was given really a good fight. I never expected that an elephant that defected can fight the elephant with this, if I should say, momentum. And I can tell you that it wasn't really an easy fight for the NPP. And so I would say that there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the two political parties, both the NDC and NPP, from Ejiso. In fact, any of these two major political parties who fail to learn from the dynamics of Ejiso will have the party to be blamed in 2024.
Observation. Now, going beyond the two political parties, as you indicated, the NDC and the NPP. Remember, we have just ahead of us a general election to engage in. What happened at Ejiso that you think will not augur well for us if it should repeat itself during the general elections?
In fact, if I heard you right,
yes,
I can tell you that Ejiso by-election, in fact, Ejiso as a constituency is predominantly MPP population. And if you look at 1996, when the NPP decided to join, in fact, you know that the NPP boycotted the 1992 election, parliamentary election. So for that reason, they didn't have members of parliament represented in the Parliament of Ghana. And for that reason, they came back in 1996 And from 1996 to 2000, and I think let's say 2008, where Kwesi Oseji was a member of parliament. Then the Ejoso Drabin constituency were together. And I can assure you that the least votes in percentage terms that the NPP had in the Ejoso constituency from 1996 to 2020 was 76%. And you can see that the NPP as a political party enjoys massive support from the people of Ejoso. But unfortunately for the NPP, they had a candidate who was disgruntled. In fact, if I should use the word disgruntled, NPP former candidate, which was our former MP, Honorable Osei Ediomi, I feel he was so disgruntled because remember, at a time when 2016, when the NDC built the Kaswa interchange, and when the whole opposition wanted to come to power, and the time when they were trying to discredit the structural integrity and the integrity of the Kaswa interchange. I mean, as a civil engineer, he came out plainly to say that, yes, we have politics and we have profession, but I can say that the professionalism of this or the integrity of this interchange cannot be contested. And for that reason, the MPP as a political party were not so happy with him. And that was what made him lost. In fact, Ediomi was so popular with the people of Ejoso, and so his loss was actually, if you go into the ground, at the time when he lost, it was something that has to do with the entire party machinery, from the then candidature to the vice presidential candidature, and all the party architecture were against him at the time, and that's what made him lost that seat. It wasn't that he wasn't popular with the people of Ejoso. He was popular with the people of Ejoso, but at the time, because remember, in 2016, in fact, from the 2000.
Hello, Prof. Prof. Okay, I think the network has gone bad. Whilst we try to get Prof on the line, there are some messages that have come in, and because I promise it's going to be very interactive, we are going to try to read all messages that comes in. This one says, money is the root of all evil. So the good book says, we cannot therefore expect any good for this country. Religious groups should condemn this with all their might. And this is coming from Kipo Tuna from Savannah region. My name is Kamba Rindorf. I believe the MPP is planning to rig the 2024 elections. But the only way Ghanaians and NDC can have theirs is to stick to the saying, election is won at the polling station. Ghanaians should not vote and go and sleep. They should be very vigilant. Greetings. Mr. Watson, please kindly let Ghanaians know that the rainstorms hitting Ghana now is a warning from God Almighty to all the evildoers and leaders of the nation. It is his warning to all the political leaders who are bent on destroying his nation, Ghana. He, God, says those who will change or repent from their evil deeds against his country, Ghana, he will forgive them. But if they don't, they will taste his wrath. Nobody touches the nation Ghana this way and will go scot-free. The Holy Spirit has spoken. Warn them. Please, God is angry. Warn them. We will see more disastrous rains than we are seeing now, and that is his anger and warning. Okay, you didn't add your name. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Our democracy has been swelled under Kufuor and Baumia government with their party Aparachikis. I am Christian Ekuamwa from Odome Chala in the Oti region of Ghana. My regards to W1 Wanida, okay, Emmanuel in Sunyani Liberation Barras. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I'm watching you live all the way from Sefi, Adjua 4, Bia, West Constituency. You are really doing good. Keep it up. Thank you. This from Abubakar Gambiru. A Jesu by-election tells us we should be fully prepared. Ghanaians should come out 7th December 7th December 2024 to save Ghana's integrity. All right, so let's go back to the line and then reconnect with Prof. Prof, can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Sorry for the internet
That's okay. It happens.
failure.
It happens. Welcome back. So you were making a fantastic submission. Please go ahead.
So I was telling you that, in fact, from 1996 to 2020, the worst performance from 1996 to 2020 was the 1996, which was about 76%. And I link this to the fact that Odiomi has been the only candidate that has garnered the biggest percentage votes for the NPP in that, the Ejoso constituency, which is 84%. And so Odiomi by
Are we losing him? Are we losing Prof? Oh, Prof. Okay, so there are some few challenges, and I'm sure we'll get back to Prof to have a conversation. Now, whilst we go through the messages that comes, there's one thing that is very important that we need to look at, and that has to do with the monetization of our democracy. It looks like we've gotten to that stage in our democratic dispensation, particularly in this Fourth Republic, where speedily every election is now becoming a preserve for the highest bidder. And so if you do not have money, irrespective of the policies and the brains and, that which you want to offer, because you have no money, electorate seems not to be interested in you. And I think that is one thing that is killing us as a country. In the year 2024, December 7th, if we should go into this general election with this same attitude, then there's a higher possibility that we'll end up having drug barons and individuals engaging in illegal activities taking charge of leadership in this country. So we'll sleep and wake up and we'll realize that the executive or legislature will have about 80% or 90% of representatives there having been individuals engaging in illegalities. It looks like we have Prof back. Prof, can you hear us? Hello,
I can
Prof.
hear you.
All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can, but Prof,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Just a minute to welcome your colleague. Doc, Joanne, can you hear me? All right, so Prof, please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
So as I was saying, I can say that in the Ejoso constituency, the independent candidate who was once a member of parliament has been one of the best performing MPs. In fact, in terms of when it comes to votes, and if you check, as your vote increases in your stay in parliament, it's an indication that you are really working for the people, and the people actually admire what you are doing, and so they honor you with votes. So in 2016, when the party hierarchy decided to stand against Ediomi lost the primaries. It wasn't the fact that Ediomi was not popular with the people of Ejoso. Ediomi was popular with the people of Ejoso. And in fact, at the time, if Ediomi had gone independent at that time, Ediomi would have caused a stir in the hands of the NPP. But for the love of party, he decided to forgo, even though he felt he was not fairly treated as far as the party hierarchy's support towards a candidate, John Kuma, at the time was concerned. So I can show you that this by-election was an indication that indeed the man Owusu Ediomi was not a man that we rejected. It was a man that the MPP leadership rejected for we, the citizens of Ejoso. And so we had an opportunity to bring him back. And you see, if you check the kind of votes and the support the people gave. A man who has stayed in opposition for 8 years without resources, and looking at the number of people that came there. In fact, the presidency was actually in a Joso to back my colleague lecturer, lawyer Watting. In fact, if you check, and there were sources that the party brought to the people of Joso for them to actually look onto it and vote. And even the vote that they got at the end of the day, it tells you that the people of Joso had missed Ediomi and they wish that Ediomi will come back. But you see, in Ghana, when you are fighting against any of these two political parties, you need to be extra strong before you can surmount them. And let me tell you something. If you remember, at the time when, at the last rally of the Joso, the president came there, and the president made comment that he made when at the last rally of Formina. And I said somewhere that the MPP as a political party, the leader ceases to learn. And they don't want to actually learn from the mistakes and the utterances that cost them, and in fact, utterances that makes them lose favor with the people. Remember, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president of Ghana at the time, said that he cannot work with an independent candidate. And I tell you, the stone that the MPP rejected became the chief cornerstone that saved them in parliament. They would have had a president and they would have had a minority. At the end of the day, they need to compensate him with the third deputy speaker because they rejected him.
Prof,
they rejected him.
Yes, I get you.
And the same thing nearly happened.
Prof, can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you well.
Our time is running very fast. To wrap up with you, so that I can go to the next guest who is online waiting, I want to find out from you the issue of monetization. How are we able to ensure that even if we do not repeat it in the general elections, we are able to minimize it? Because the effect of it is that we will end up electing individuals not based on competence, but because they have money and they are the highest bidder. What do you think? What's your take on that? Prof, did you hear me? Prof, can you hear me? Is Prof online?
Monetization in Ghanaian politics, it is really getting out of hand now, and it is very pathetic as a country where we actually choose money over intelligence, we choose money over capacity to serve, we choose money over almost everything. And when that is happening, we have a lot to actually worry about as a country. You see, issue of Joso, for instance, I can be very certain with you. Yes, they say we can't say it, but I can assure you that Joso MPP, if not for sometimes giving transportation as they claim to people, they wouldn't have won this election. Because I can assure you that the people themselves know the kind of money that came there a day to the election. And even with that, you can see when you go to Asin North, it happened. Using money, I mean, by means of constructing roads, when you know that you are supposed to do it, you not do it, you wait until, what do you call it? We just buy election before you can now bring in all the machinery there to see that you are coming to do roads and other things. In fact, it's something that we need to all condemn and really frown over, because if we do not do that, I can assure you that one day we are going to stay in this country where the people that have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding about our own Ghanaian situation will be rejected because they don't have the money. But people who may engage in illegalities will be allowed to serve this country. And when they are engaging in illegality to make money to serve the country, I can assure you that the integrity of the country will be bad because they will find, the means they are which they came in, they cannot neglect that means. So I can tell you that, in fact, monocracy or monetization of Ghanaian politics is getting out of hand. And I think as people, we all must stand up against monetization in the Ghanaian politics. Let the best brains we have in this country come in and serve. And when they come in and serve, I believe that the Ghana we all want, and the better Ghana we have all envisaged to have, that Ghana will come back to us as people, and the people of Ghana will save to enjoy the country better.
So much, Prof. Johan, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your insight to the topic that we are discussing. Now, we'll welcome again our next guest, Dr. Lord Gowan. He is a lecturer at KNUST. He's also a strong member and a patron of Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana KNUST chapter. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me this evening. Good evening to the listeners.
Right. So, Doc, as we indicated, we are discussing the fallout from the Ejesobai election, and we are also looking at its impact on the general election, because this is supposed to be a preparation for the general elections. Three key things that we've identified from our end has to do with the monetization of it, the heavy presence of the police or the security apparatus, and also minors being allowed to go into the voting process. I'm very sure you took your time to observe to a large extent what transpired there. What do you make of the Ejesobai election?
Well, I had to follow up on some few things. What I observed particularly was caught my attention was the video that was circulating both on social media and the traditional media of a whole MP, let me put it that way, dropping an envelope on the desk apparently for the EC officers involved, the one who is supposed to give out the ballot officer and the presiding officer. And whatever may be the intent of the MP, whether for favor, as he put it, or for any goodwill, I think the time at which he did that, or he did that favor, was totally wrong. Because as human as we are...
Prof, if you can hear me, sorry to interrupt, but my viewers want to see your face, and so if you can kindly reposition the camera so that we can see your face very well, we will appreciate.
Okay, I hope it's better now.
Perfectly well. Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
So as human as we are, there is a high tendency to return favor. And with that in mind, you don't give favors in the midst of certain critical processes. So, for example, in this instance, the EC is supposed to be a neutral person or a referee in this instance. And as a matter of conscience, anybody should not make any attempt to introduce any favor that has a potential to influence the EC to also return that favor. So I think that the very act of trying to bring in a favor at that time was totally wrong, in the sense that it had a huge tendency of influencing the whole process. Importantly, if you observe the video very well, and of course the EC statement that came later, affirming the fact that the officers claimed the MP asked them whether they had eaten, and for that matter, he was giving them something for food. But I think that if the MP had a goodwill, he could have waited for the process to end, and probably he could have given the money after the process. At that point, possibly, because the result had been declared, obviously there would not be any influence on them. But in the midst of the process, or even prior to the process, you don't do favors to people who are supposed to be neutral, because as I said, there's high tendency that they will try to replicate that favor. So that act, to me, is totally wrong. It had high potential of influencing them. And if you look at the video very well, you could see that the officer wasn't comfortable picking up the envelope, so he gestured to the MP to drop it on the desk. And the most important thing to me was the fact that whatever was meant to feed them, in quote, was actually in an envelope. So the MP had actually prepared to carry out that act. So it wasn't, to me, how well packaged the envelope was did not suggest that he did that instantaneously or impromptu because the people said he had not eaten. To me, it was something he premeditated, that he was coming there in a way to influence them. And I think that is totally wrong. And indeed, the gesture of the officer also suggested to me that he knew that what he was doing was wrong, and he felt very uncomfortable picking up the envelope. So in the issue of corruption, whoever gives and whoever takes, they are all guilty. And I think the EC was swift to withdraw them. And it's, as I said, this was happening in broad daylight, and that is amazing thing about it. If a whole MP will have the nerve, the temerity to do this while other people were looking on, and while there was security men, there were policemen around, and if he could do this in broad daylight, I'm wondering what they may be doing in secret. And that is very, very, very wrong. As a nation, I think that our conscience is totally gone. And we must awaken our conscience if we really, really want to develop. Because a people without a conscience cannot develop. Normally, a people without a conscience are very selfish people. They want everything for themselves. And that is what we've got into. Somebody gives without seeing anything wrong with it, and somebody takes without seeing anything wrong with it. And I think it is time as a people to awaken our conscience. Other than that, our nation is doomed for good. And now, where we are heading to, looks like everything is all about money. Everything is about money. It is about the highest bidder. And it's just amazing. And this shouldn't come from a whole MP. And I mean, in the midst of other people, the nerve to bring out that thing. And he knew very well that should anybody get to know this, it will cost. So whatever other reasons he may be given, of course, we are human beings and we may be tempted to defend our action whenever others rise up against us. But the fact, the very essence of the act was totally wrong. At the time he gave it, when somebody is supposed to be a neutral person, proud to the election, and even in the midst of the election, you don't do such people favors. If you have any favor, wait till the process ends, and you give the favor out, not in the middle of the process, or be proud to the process. So that is, I think, my take on the whole thing that transpired. And we as a nation must be very careful. And apart from that instance, we saw other videos moving around, people talking about the fact that they've been sharing money and they've not gotten their share, and until they get their share, they are not going to vote. And I was really, really, really saddened by that. And that is how deep our nation has sunk. And people have the nerve to actually speak in public, demanding money before they vote.
That's right.
I mean, that is where we've got into. That is where we've got into. People talking about them sharing other things. They didn't get their share. Until they get their share, they are not voting.
Yeah.
And it's not just about this just election. We've had instances in Ashanti region where even during primaries, people took money and they didn't vote for the candidate, and the candidate came out that he's demanding his money back. So that is how deep we've sunk as a people. And if we are selling our conscience to bring in the wrong folks, then we shouldn't expect any good thing from these politicians. Because once you take money to the politician, that is your value. And once he pays that value, don't expect any good from the person. So we as a people should stop demanding money from politicians. Let awaken our conscience as a nation. Because once you take money from them, obviously he will find a way of recouping that money. So we as a people must awaken our conscience and make sure that we don't demand where we've not sown. So don't be selling your votes. And that is where we have a lot of work to do. So it's not just about a politician, but as somebody said, that a politician is a general reflection of the population. And of course, the demand for money before we vote for politicians is coming from the population. And whenever they give out the money, they will make sure they recoup it when they get into power. So it is an issue with both if you look at the just instance, it's an issue with the MP, it's an issue with the presiding member, and all other people who took money.
That's right.
So when we are pointing accusing fingers, it's not just to the MP, to the presiding officer and the other officers as well as every member of the community who took money to vote. And everyone who was involved must bow his or her head in shame, because this is selling the very conscience of the nation to the highest bidder. And that must not go on.
That's right. Doc, you fantastically raised or talked about a number of individuals. So here we mentioned the politician. And in this case, making reference to a Jesu by-election, we are specifically talking about Kingsley Nyako, who happened to be a member of parliament, working in a jurisdiction that is supposed to be in charge of the laws that are enacted. And unfortunately, he decided to breach the same law that he was part of in formulating. Then you also talk about the individuals. So Kingsley Nyako here represents the bias of the votes. Then you talk about the individuals who are also willing to sell their votes, the citizens. Now, the law, as I keep saying or referring to, tells us clearly that both the buyer and the seller of votes, as far as elections are concerned, they have committed criminal offense. It looks like we are not talking about the law enforcers who are supposed to arrest and apprehend and prevent individuals from engaging in criminal offenses. The police were there at a Jesu by-election. The police were there at Kumewu by-election. The police, they were there at Assin North by-elections. In fact, and indeed, 2020 general elections, the police were there. And 2024 general elections, the police are going to be there. What is preventing the police from ensuring that the right things are done?
Well, I think honestly, we have with time, we have as a nation bastardized our institutions. So as far as we are concerned, our institutions are not working. There is too much political influence as far as institutions are concerned. If we pick institutions like Yoko, for example, where we pick out the Office of Special Prosecutor, who is supposed to deal with corruption. So these institutions, we expect them to be neutral. But the president cannot appoint such a person, and you expect the person to be neutral towards an appointee of the president. So there is something fundamentally wrong with the way we appoint people to occupy certain position. And once it is the president that is appointing the person thinks that the president has done him or her a favor. And obviously such a person will not come to do a very neutral, a very good job. So that has been a problem. And obviously with time, a lot of the young folks in these institutions have decided to mind their own business because they know, should they, for example, the police officer who was at the GESO, I'm sure he saw what was going on. But to him, it was unnecessary to take any action because he knew, should we even arrest the MP, of course, he'll be freed eventually, and probably he was going to be chastised, he was going to lose his job or something like that. Because we know that there is high influence as far as the police service is concerned. We've heard of tales of people bargaining for position, all in the name of politics, right? So that is how bad our institutions are. And because of that, the young officers wouldn't want to risk, in quote, their job in order to, for example, save election. All right. So that is the general thing I see about the reason behind that. We have bastardized our institutions with time, and that is the trouble we are having now. So I think that is the reason why the officer probably and many others decided not to take any decision.
Yeah. Prof, we are just about wrapping up with you. And again, we want to really appreciate the time you've spent with us and the analysis you've given to us. A number of messages keep coming, and it looks like a lot of them are coming from your students and members of Crusaders on the KNUST campus. And so they are really sending a number of messages talking about your analysis. As we prepare for the December elections, reflecting over what took place at GESO, very brief, I mean, in 2 or 3 sentences, what do you think needs to be done to ensure that the general election will be credible and the result that we'll have, particularly with the leaders that will be elected, there will be individuals that will really reflect what Ghana needs and not individuals that reflect the money that they have in their pockets?
Well, I think as we use the GESO one as a case study, we have a lot of education to do as far as the populace is concerned, so that they do not trade their conscience for money as far as this election is concerned. And I think that would be our biggest problem as a nation. Your environment or what you are going through should possibly influence your conscience to take the right decision. But if money is going to influence your conscience, then you don't have to expect anything good from the nation.
Right.
So actually what happened, just so let me put it this way, it's a foretaste of what we may see in the general election. And it's also evidence of what is already transpiring in the system for a while. And for that matter, we need a lot of education, for the populace to stop demanding money before they vote. So that is very, very sad as a nation. And unfortunately, the next thing will be for us to enforce the laws governing corruption.
Right.
But I'm telling you for a fact, a lot of Ghanaians have lost interest in our institutions because we have more strong men than strong institutions.
That's true.
And because of that, people just run into the institution, flex their muscles, and then, in court, make nonsense of our laws.
Right.
And that is a problem. People know, and particularly the political class know, that they can flout the laws without any consequence.
That's right.
And that is exactly what is happening now. So we need a lot of reform, in fact, constitutional reform, to limit the powers of the president about the people they appoint. I mean, some of the people who are supposed to be neutral, and you expect the president to appoint a person and the person to come back and to be neutral, that will not happen. So going forward, I think what we can do immediately is to awaken the conscience of the populace so that we don't vote for people who give us the highest money.
Very well. Doc. Okay, Doc is off. But Doc, thank you so much for joining in and giving us this insightful analysis. So as I indicated, this is the time for you to also share your views while we go through the messages that have come through. So the phone-in number or the phone line that you can use is 02041 55944. 02041 55944. When you call, make it very brief so that others can also engage in. So these are the numbers on the line. While we wait, we continue with the text messages that has come in. Okay, this one says, good evening, Mr. Host, and to your panelists. This government has emphatically vowed to hand over power to his own successor. And one could imagine the kind of unpalatable developments that keep coming under this government. Also, a just by election to me shows that the people are fed up with this government, and that also paves a profound way for NDC. Thanks. God bless Aka from Nzima, Elembele district. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I'm Ali, listening to you live from Kumasi at Asempaneye in the Ahafo Ano Southeast constituency. Very educative submission from Prof, my able lecturer at AAMUSTED University in Kumasi. Okay, you didn't add. Okay, you say you are Ali. Ekufuado and Baumia have tried to cover all corrupt persons in their government. They have stamped it and made corruption very real. I am Charles Cardinal from Pokwase. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. How can you share we and money at your stronghold to win an election? Shame on to MPP. The world is watching. No wonder Miracle Abuaji said they will share money and win 2024 election. They kill. Okay, that's fine. Good evening, Mr. Host. Let us all, as citizens, get prepared to rescue this nation of ours. Since the so-called institution who should speak to government but are silent, so if the unexpected happens to, they should keep silent. Okay, you didn't add your name. First caller, what's your name?
My name is Christopher K.
Christopher, welcome to Politics and Beyond. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, boss. I want to share my concern and my view.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Sir, you asked that what are the police are there for, right?
Yes.
I think the police are there for if they are stealing you in the name of the election processing. You keep quiet. And if you don't know, then you go and call macho men. You come and attack that thing. They will fight you. Because if our constitution is working or the police people are there for enforce law, if somebody is giving money, you must arrest the person.
Right. Okay.
Or if MP are stamped and giving somebody money, MP don't have that chance to give VC people money and tell us that he's giving them chop money. VC officials, VC people will come and give them food.
That's right.
And maybe the MPP people, MPP organizers will come and give the MPP people food.
Okay.
That's the processing
we find ourselves very well.
Yes.
Yes, Christopher, yes. Thank you so much. You've made your point. Thank you so much. So this one says, what happened in Ejisu is a proof that Ghana has lost its integrity as a country. Broad day stealing by the MPP candidates and bribing EC official at election ground is proof that Ghana is now led by corrupt leaders who think about their stomach, not the nation. We pray God rescue us coming 2024 elections. You didn't add your name. This one says, good evening, Mr. Wilson. Please, this current government led by Nana shall go down in history as the worst government since independence, because this government has legalized corruption, lawlessness, state capture, arrogance, misinformation, contract killings, political robbery, etc. So my question is, where are the likes of the clergy, National House of Chiefs, CSOs, etc.? They only came to kill, steal, and okay. So this is UK1. That's your name. Etibie Kwehu. Do you have a call on the line?
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and welcome to Politics and Beyond. What's your name?
My name is Stephen Domiti. I'm calling from Kumasi.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Please, I just want to let Ghanaians know that this thing happened our past 70s.
Right.
And the same thing that they brought at this system now. So the Ghanaians should be focused. And secondly, please, let Mahama know that if he don't know, and Ghanaians vote for him again,
yes,
and they spare the food, giving chance for MPP people to vote them second time or third time.
yes.
In fact, Ghanaians will be annoyed that NDC.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mr. Host. I think bribery and corruption that characterized the Jesuba election was an eyesore. The professor is not above law, so he's making reference to Kingsley Nyako. Therefore, must be brought to book. He was not embarking on a parliamentary duty, but a selfish interest. Thank you. I'm Justice from Tamale. Nanado Baumia Ufuri Atta destroyed the real foundation of the economy by collapsing banks, microfinance institutions. Over 200 media houses created massive unemployment and introduced unrealistic taxes that are forcing many multinational companies to relocate their businesses. Yet they still expect the economy to be strong after all the distractions. My name is Mustafa Amadou Tanko from Bia West District. Good evening and welcome to Politics and Beyond.
My name is...
Hello, can you put off or reduce the volume on your TV set? Can you hear me?
hello, good evening.
Your name, please. Hello?
Hello, I'm Dr. Jabembo Solomon.
Doc, please go ahead.
Dr. Jabembo Solomon.
Yes, Doc.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Host, for having me in this evening. Yeah, monetization in Ghanaian politics cannot be done well. Looking at both the major political parties, NPP and NDC, it looks like anytime that there is election, aside the by-election, people go in there to pay money, to influence or to induce others to vote for them. It is that time that Ghanaians will strike ourselves to the point that when the politicians bring in this money, we can vote against them.
Right.
A classical example is what happened recently in the Josu.
Yes.
You know, Mr. Adionu's departure from the NP has demonstrated strongly that indeed the NPP has a long way to go.
That's right.
They need to, as a matter of fact, work with their internal ranking.
Yeah.
We were coming forward in the 2024 elections. It's a big banter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doc. So let me quickly go through as many as I can before I wrap up. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. In fact, Ghana, we have everything it takes for the nation to be successful, yet bad leadership is our problem. If you perform as a party, you don't go into by-elections with money and the whole government machinery. This is Pastor Justice from Ho. The MPP have never added anything to Ghana economy. They say they fixed Doomsaw, but not true. Okay, you didn't add your name. Good evening, Mr. Emmanuel. AU Gaddafi from Nkoko. They should question Kwadaso MP who sent him to go there and give them the envelope. What is inside? Ghanaians want to know. This one says, indeed, Dr. Gowans is a great political analyst. I didn't look at the Ejisoba election, but from this perspective, Dr. Gowan is great. This is ABC from KNUST. This vote buying is very worse in Efutu constituency. More than 30% voters of Efutu EC register are people from Gomua and Ewutu Senya. Richard from Winneba. This one says, nice delivery, Dr. Gowans. Little did I know that you can analyze politics like molecular biology. I am Bobby, your student from KNUST. Okay. All Ghanaians know the truth, but our leaders have taken the issue claiming mountains. The truth is that the man bribed the polling agents. Say the truth, and the truth shall set you free. This is Hala from Hala Madrid. Okay. Mr. Host, good evening. I wish to send a strong request to our NDC polling officers to be extra vigilant throughout the process of voting. This is Ibrahim from Tamale. As the way and manner the EC is conducting themselves, particularly the chairperson herself, there's likely to be, okay, there won't be war. I call it election war, which will, in other terms, civil war. All right, so Francis, Asawasi constituency. Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson, good evening. I wish to send a strong request to our, and I think I've read this. Greetings to Honorable Felix. Okay. My name is Honorable. All right. Thank you so much. The messages keep coming, but unfortunately, this is where time will allow us. There's one that came in last week, and I'm sure if I don't say it. So this one says, I am XWWO. I'm not sure whether it's W1 or W2, but XW Chereme from Tayman. And I'm enjoying your show. Thank you so much. Also coming from Daniel Kofi Wilson, who says he's also tuned in and is enjoying. Thank you guys so much for following, and thank you for being part of this evening's episode. I believe strongly that the conversations that we've had is going to help us to fine-tune the general elections, for us to have a credible election. This coming Wednesday, we are going to have a repetition of this episode on this same platform, TV XYZ, exactly 11 a.m. in the morning. Next week, we are going to have another interesting episode. And I strongly believe that this evening's conversation that you've been so much part of, we are not going to let it end here, but we're also going to tell our colleagues, our friends who missed this evening's episode to tune in this coming Wednesday so that we can all learn something from it. Remember, the focus is for us to transform our minds as far as the general elections and the future of this country is concerned. So we meet again next week. I'm still your host, Emmanuel Wilson, and all I can say is good night for now.